Hi, everybody. It's the show with Ron. I'm Ron, and we got kind of a big headline today. I don't know if non Americans think this is a big headline, but this is a kind of a cultural moment. It makes Americans want to talk about it. And if you look online, you'll see lots and lots of people uh, who feel the need, under any chat just to say goodbye, murderer, this sort of a thing, to this guy who was sort of an American icon. And then he had this most sensational trial that was broadcast on television, that was the most gossipy thing ever, that Americans loved and that were endlessly scrutinized. I was overseas at the time this happened, and I watched it overseas. It was on in about every country I happened to be in at the time. And it, he's, I didn't realize at the time how, I'm going to use this word I hate to use, iconic. See, people use that way too often. Everything is an iconic just because you've heard of it. But this case was emblematic to a lot of people about racism in America. And there were a couple interesting documentary miniseries that came on after that explained kind of the back history of like why the black community in Los Angeles kind of cheered on the verdict, even though O.J. Simpson hadn't really been an ally of the black community. It had to do with police brutality in the 1980s and the LA riots in the early 1990s, this sort of thing. I never knew it had that history. To me, overseas watching this, it was just like, oh, this is novel. And it never ever occurred to me to go on every forum that mentions a story or OJ and say, go to hell, murderer. But apparently, something about the internet makes everybody do that, because I'm just stunned that there's so many people online that need to. I mean, this is, whether it's right or not, I guess it is the purest form of virtue signaling to say, I read this article and I have this opinion about it and I need to call out this person. I guess sometimes I don't know. It's just funny to me how invested people get in these stories that they have to say a line about it. Just a line, not even an interest, not an even thing interesting. It's just like one call out for the mob for being so happy that this happened. So anyway, that's certainly I'll say it, iconic person and situation in late 20th century American history, sensational though it be. Here we have a situation with abortion there in Arizona. And what I could say about that is, see, I'm trying to skirt around saying some things so I can promote this, advertise this on YouTube. But what I will say is, Americans, in terms of their mind space about all different kinds of subjects, like abortion, like guns, and I've said this before, the watchword is liberty. So Americans want the same liberty to have an abortion under some circumstances, regulated in the same way they want the right to keep and bear arms, regulated under some circumstances. There's always outliers on both sides who want no restrictions for guns or no restrictions for abortions, but most people like to have restrictions for other people, but they want the freedom to do it for themselves. And the Republicans are running up against this concept that everything goes too far. And so we have a state in Arizona that has opted for these very old-fashioned rules, and this can be a very potent thing in public opinion, these new abortion rules. First look at Michael Jackson biopic thrills critics. I can't imagine how you could have a single movie about him. You know, it's either you're going to go in for something very trashy about the scandalous things in his life at the end, towards the end of his life, or it's just going to be a glossy biopic. And we've seen a few biopics in film in the 21st century now that have, you know, the main actor wins best actor, this sort of a thing, like Jamie Foxx in that Ray Charles one. But then they have a whole bunch of other ones that come along and they don't do anything. So I can't imagine so tricky to do that. Oh, they did it well with the Freddie Mercury one. That was another, I think, a Best Actor winner for that as well. And then they said, okay, let's do Elton John, let's do a bunch of others, and they didn't reach the same heights of acclaim. So we'll see. Michael Jackson, despite anything, is interesting in the same way like O.J. Simpson. I don't feel the need to. I'm just a bystander. I'm just watching what's happening. I don't need to scream invective or praise or shout down anybody with any opinion on one way or another. We've got stuff in the Middle East. We've got protesters. Maybe I'll read this one another day when I'm not trying to promote this video. Here's a, I don't know. It's just this is a water cooler thing. The guy has an interpreter, and somehow his interpreter supposedly, allegedly stole 16 million. Even if he sold 1 million or 100,000 or 10,000, how does your interpreter get access to this sort of a money? I guess he's acting with wire transfers, perhaps, in his stead, or it's a bizarre, almost unbelievable story. But there are people who deal in levels of money that we can only dream of, I guess. We've got NASA shocked by Russia's spacecraft coming close to hitting satellite. This just reminds me of, in theory, and I know states have gone back and forth, but there's supposedly a UN treaty that's supposed to outlaw weapons in space. The United States, the Soviet Union, Russia, other countries have flirted with disavowing it, and I think it's probably somewhat disavowed by several countries now, but they always said that weapons in space is a pointless thing to outlaw, because instead what you do is you have a lot of little satellites, cheap ones that you put up there, and then in the case you need to do battle, you just send those spacecraft in a collision course with the things you want to hit. And there's so many satellites up there, and they're not easy to move around once they're in place, and that's why you get so many of them. And I know it's been there's suspicion that there are companion satellites, little cheap satellites that that exist only to engage in warfare one time in the future, in the event where satellites need to be knocked out by one side or another. What's this? Need to visit Brazil. Share bank statements? Huh. I don't know. It's quite interesting here. There's a lot of countries around the world that are cracking down on tourism and immigration and false tourists. This looks to be a part of it. Americans, they'll just stay home. This is a fascinating thing, and points up something we talk about here sometime. We have which states are the highest tax state as an average lifetime state. You have we talk about the liberal states that have higher taxes and more services, and the lower tax states that have lower taxes and less services. So we've got New Jersey, it's one of the highest. We've got Washington, D.C., Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And those are very developed states. California is one of them. A lot of parks, a lot of public services. And then there's a lot of states where there's very little and there's a lot of dirt roads. And here's the lowest tax state, West Virginia, with almost a third of what the highest tax state pays. You pay in West Virginia. Graffiti takeover Royals, Los Angeles. On one hand, I'm interested in art, and I think it's interesting, but, you know, yeah, I don't know what this... when you got this sort of situation, it bespeaks a chaos and a lawlessness. You know, because the letters are written to be difficult to read or only be able to be read by a certain subset of people in the know, it kind of locks out people. It creates a little bit of fear and chaos. I may be overstating it a bit, but this may be artistic in some ways, and sometimes I like to look at photos of graffiti and the style, but in other ways it looks like the decay of our civilization when that is allowed. You see, I'm purposely being careful this time. I'm usually more freewheeling. I'm trying to skip certain subjects so I can promote this video. Maybe I'll put something in the I'll explain more in the comments at some point. Skyscrapers, fake moon, all those crazy things they're trying to do in Saudi Arabia. Spend that money. You know, that long skyscraper. It'd be nice to have this kind of money. Who would want to live in these? I don't know. I just have some funny ideas about certain things. If I were a country like Saudi Arabia with trillions to spend, I would put a space program together, fly to Mars, set up a permanent colony there, and declare it like an Islamic planet. That's what I would do. I'm not in that religion or any religion, but I do like creating chaos, and that would be I think that would be a cool thing to do. Yeah, this is a strange thing, particularly we have in America. See, O.J. Simpson was acquitted in the criminal trial, but in the United States, we're supposed to not have double jeopardy, like you can't be put on trial for the same crime twice, but you can have then a civil trial. So even though O.J. Simpson was acquitted, they had another trial, and this is a civil trial where the family sues him for millions and millions of dollars. And they won that. So even though O.J. was acquitted on one in the criminal trial, in the civil trial, he was found culpable. And I know there's a difference in the burden of proof. Is it in the criminal trial? And this differs, I believe, from state to state as well, where it's like in the criminal trial, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, and then in the civil trial, it's a slightly different burden of proof. But it seems kind of unfair if you win out fair and square on your criminal trial, whether you're really guilty or not, that they could still come around and take you to court again. But that's what happened to O.J., and he never coughed up that money to anybody. You know, everyone's talking about this Alex Garland Civil War movie, some kind of breakdown. I know some people have posited that it's, I don't know. It'd be different. Again, I'm trying to promote this, so maybe I shouldn't talk. I'll talk about that in the next video, how that unfolds. And there's a lot of people who've made a lot better videos about how that might unfold on YouTube. I'm going to pass that over. More stuff from a subject I'm skipping right now. Psychedelics at work. What else do we have? Electric car sales plunging in Europe, too. Already happening in the States. I don't want to show this. This is stunning Roman frescoes uncovered. There is nudity. That was okay in the past. It is no longer okay now. I will not show that. Oh, this is the final story I wanted to show. I just don't know what's happening in the United States. You know, where they outsourced all the factories. They're outsourcing everything, and now people are just saying, "Well, Americans are going to end up working at minimum wage fast food jobs." So now with the telepresence, the internet, those can be outsourced overseas now. So the fried chickens in New York, the cashiers in the Philippines. And it's a funny cycle because a lot of U.S. states have reacted to this outsourcing by saying, well, the minimum wage was this. Let's make the minimum wage $15 or $20 or $25, and then people can have a living wage and work in these stores. But then that causes the shops to either close down or change their business model to not give any jobs in the United States. These businesses only suck away money, and they don't. They're not providing jobs. So I don't know. That's sobering. That's a very scary thing. The times are changing, and I want to show you my book. My writing, some of the themes have to do with some of the aspects of the channel here. Usually we talk about a wider range of issues, but I'm trying to get this promoted, so I censored myself a little bit. My other videos are uncensored, and this is my book. Disillusioned by the promises of the modern world, young people make their way to Bangkok and then on to the furthest places they can find. There are still unknown places. And I just heard my book is now available at Kinokuniya branches at M Quarter, Central World, and Siam Paragon. I really wanted them to carry it, and it's in literature, which is cool, so this is another dream come true for me. Read it and let me know what you think, please. Thanks. And that's my book. It factors into some of the themes of the age, the disillusionment with the way things are, the questioning of the news, trying to figure out what's really being said. Please check out my other videos. I have videos on the news. We look at the headlines that are being provided to us by the internet and what they're trying to make us get excited about. And I also have other videos about writing. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.